Some mysteries refuse to be forgotten. Some legends never fade. And some conspiracies demand to be uncovered. This is Codename Unknown. Mysteries, conspiracies, and legends. Where expert investigator and host Jackson Wolf dives deep into history's most perplexing enigmas, chilling folklore, and secretive cover-ups. Each week, he pushes the boundaries of what we know, uncovering hidden truths and questioning the stories we've been told. The search for answers begins now. Open your mind, question everything, and step into the shadows.
Welcome to Codename Unknown. I'm Jackson Wolf, your guide for a careful, curious walk through the fog around what many call the Shadow Society. Tonight we won't chant slogans or chase phantoms. We'll map structures, incentives, and evidence. Think of this as a field manual for understanding how concentrated power can act behind the scenes without resorting to cartoon villains. We'll separate what's documented from what's plausible and both from what's been debunked. We'll ask, how do elites coordinate outcomes without a single smoky room? What tools shape narratives and policy? And how can you investigate claims responsibly? By the end, you'll have a sharper lens and a practical toolkit to examine the forces that quietly contour our world. Let's trade heat for light, curiosity for certainty, ground rules. First, we investigate systems, not scapegoats. No targeting identities. No naming private individuals without primary source evidence. Second, we use evidence tiers. Tier 1, documented, court records, declassified files, audited datasets, peer-reviewed research. Tier 2, well-substantiated, multiple independent sources, credible whistleblowers, corroborated timelines. Tier 3, plausible but unproven, patterns, incentives, and partial documentation awaiting confirmation. Tier 4, debunked, claims falsified by transparent data or clear methodological errors. Will flag the tier every time. Third, we avoid unfalsifiable claims, numerology, and moving goalposts. Fourth, we check counter-evidence before conclusions. Finally, we recognize harm. Narratives can stigmatize innocence or spark harassment. Our focus is accountability, not vengeance. If a claim can't survive open scrutiny, it doesn't belong here. Precision keeps curiosity honest, and honest inquiry protects the public from harm. When I say shadow society, I'm not invoking a monolithic cabal. I'm pointing to overlapping networks of influence that span finance, government, intelligence, corporate boards, lobbying shops, philanthropy, media conglomerates, and data firms. Picture interlocking directorates, family offices coordinating capital, law firms engineering vehicles, consultancies translating strategy into policy, and platforms controlling attention. Power concentrates where incentives, information, and access meet. Decisions migrate to forums with low transparency, board subcommittees, offshore entities, private conferences, and informal channels, text threads, donor dinners, encrypted chats. None of this requires cartoonish secrecy. It requires gatekeeping, aligned interests, and selective opacity. The result is structural bias. Certain outcomes become easier, alternatives harder, and the public learns after the fact, if ever. That's structure, not sorcery, and it deserves daylight and oversight. Mechanism 1, regulatory capture. When agencies depend on the industries they oversee for expertise, data, or post-agency jobs, rules tilt toward incumbents. Mechanism 2, the revolving door. Officials cycle between government, firms, and lobbying, carrying relationships, tacit knowledge, and influence. Mechanism 3, dark money and PAC ecosystems. Root funds through nonprofits and super PACs, masking donors while saturating campaigns and issue ads. Mechanism 4, shell companies and offshore finance obscure ownership, enabling risk transfer, tax arbitrage, and liability avoidance. When combined, these channels shift policy costs onto the public while privatizing upside. None advertise themselves as conspiracies. They're framed as efficiency, expertise, or competitiveness. But the functional outcome is skewed decision-making that resists democratic correction. Transparency tools exist, but enforcement lag and loopholes dull them badly. Mechanism 5. Think tanks and foundations. White papers, grants, and fellowships legitimize preferred policies, staffing administrations while defining what's serious. Mechanism 6. Concentrated media ownership steers agenda setting. What leads, what's buried, who gets booked, and the frame around debate. Mechanism 7. Information operations, psyops, astroturf campaigns, bot amplification, shape perception, fatigue, and doubt. Mechanism 8. Crisis exploitation. Moments of shock invite sweeping policy under the banner of urgency. Oversight lags while precedents stick. Mechanism 9. Lawfare, weaponizing courts, slap suits, and jurisdiction shopping to chill scrutiny, delay releases, or punish dissenters. Each mechanism may look routine in isolation. In combination, they create a decision environment where elite preferences are pre-baked, alternatives appear fringe, and accountability arrives late, diluted, or not at all. Process becomes theater. Outcomes drift from consent altogether. Documented history matters. MK Ultra, declassified records confirm CIA-funded mind-altering experiments without informed consent. COINTELPRO, FBI programs surveilled, infiltrated, and disrupted political groups. The Tuskegee syphilis study, government researchers withheld treatment from black men for decades. Iran-Contra, covert arms sales and unauthorized funding exposed a parallel policy channel. NSA mass surveillance, leaks revealed bulk collection beyond public understanding or consent. LIBOR, banks colluded to rig benchmark interest rates, distorting markets. Big Tobacco, internal memos show coordinated science suppression and marketing strategies despite known harms. Cambridge Analytica-style data operations, harvested profiles powered micro-targeting and psychological messaging. Panama and Paradise Papers, leaks mapped offshore structures used by politicians, celebrities, and corporations. None require fantasy. The documents speak loudly. These precedents justify skepticism and demand verifiable safeguards and oversight. Some cases are murkier. Operation Mockingbird. Documented relationships existed between intelligence figures and journalists, but the breadth and central coordination are disputed. We have fragments, not a master roster. Operation Gladio. Stay-behind networks in Europe are verified, yet allegations of directed domestic terror remain contested across countries and decades. Gulf of Tonkin. Declassified signals show misread or misrepresented events fueled escalation. Whether narrative management was deliberate or chaotic remains debated. Operation Northwoods. A drafted plan proposing false flag actions was rejected, proof of proposed extremes, not executed policy. In each, we log what's verified, what's inferred, what's speculative, and what would falsify claims. Ambiguity isn't license for certainty, it's a prompt for better sourcing and humility. Curiosity thrives when conclusions wait for disciplined verification and transparent debate. How does cohesion arise without a grand conspiracy? Start with shared incentives, protecting asset values, regulatory predictability, and geopolitical stability for capital. Add elite pipelines, schools, clerkships, fellowships, where networks form and norms crystallize. Layer exclusive spaces, retreats, donor salons, private clubs, and invite-only conferences where ideas are stress-tested and alliances pre-aligned. Family offices coordinate across asset classes, hiring ex-officials and analysts to scout risk and policy opportunities. Interlocking directorates knit boards together, transmitting priorities through compensation structures and strategic plans. The result is isomorphic behavior. Different institutions converge on similar choices because the people, models, and incentives overlap. No need for a memo, the water shapes the fish. That's emergent coordination, not omnipotence. but it's powerful. Understanding emergence guides reform better than chasing masterminds and blame circuits. Let's scan the narrative toolkit. Manufacturing consent describes how media, sponsorship, and sourcing filters narrow acceptable debate. Agenda setting and framing determine what's salient and how it's interpreted before you even click. Astroturfing simulates grassroots sentiment, letters, hashtags, hearings, masking coordinated origin. Overton window shifts move ideas from unthinkable to inevitable via repetition, elite endorsements, and crisis rhetoric. Reputation management deploys PR firms, crisis comms, and strategic philanthropy to preempt scrutiny. Narrative laundering routes ideas through think tank briefs, expert op-eds, and conference panels, converting advocacy into consensus. None of this guarantees control, but it stacks the deck. Recognizing the techniques helps inoculate audiences without surrendering to cynicism. Skepticism is a seatbelt, not a blindfold. Use it, don't let it use you. Name tactics, verify claims, and context before judgment. Secrecy isn't always sinister. It can protect sources, investigations, and lives. But classification and national security carve-outs are also convenient vaults for embarrassment, policy drift, or rights violations. Oversight exists, inspectors general, legislative committees, courts, but capacity, partisanship, and access constraints blunt effectiveness. FOIA is vital. It compels document releases, creates paper trails, and sometimes forces disclosures agencies would prefer to delay. Yet FOIA has exemptions, cues, and redactions. Strategic litigation may be required. Whistleblowers bridge gaps, but retaliation risks are real, which is why robust protections matter. The lesson: assume neither purity nor perfidy, demand timelines, audits, and sunset clauses. Where secrecy persists, seek independent corroboration and track who benefits from the darkness. Sunlight with teeth, enforceable transparency, changes incentives more than outrage and rumor in the dark. Investigation basics: follow the money across time, use corporate registries, beneficial ownership databases, and SEC filings to map entities and directors. Check campaign finance portals and lobbying disclosures for donors, bundlers, meetings, and issue codes. Read court dockets for affidavits, exhibits, and sworn timelines. Settlements often hide admissions. Compare procurement databases to revolving door resumes. Cross-reference tax filings for foundations and nonprofits. Grants, vendors, and salaries tell stories. Scrutinize leaks cautiously. Authenticate documents, confirm provenance, and triangulate with public records. Build network graphs: who funds whom, who sits where, who hires whom, then test for alternative explanations. Keep a research log: claim, sources, evidence quality, counter-evidence, and what would change your mind. Process discipline guards against wishful pattern-making. Share methods, not just conclusions. Reproducibility earns public trust and resilience. Before we close, a quick synthesis and a toolkit. Tonight we set ground rules, defined the shadow society structurally, tracked mechanisms of influence, examined verified cases, parsed contested ones, and mapped secrecy, oversight, and investigation methods. Media literacy checklist: corroboration from independent sources, primary documents over commentary, and red flags. Unfalsifiability, numerology, anonymous insiders, moving goalposts, cherry-picked context. Power adapts via controlled transparency, scapegoats, limited hangouts, reputation washing, and restructuring to diffuse accountability. Practical steps: draft targeted FOIA requests, support credible investigative outlets, map networks, and keep a skepticism checklist. Listener involvement: submit a claim with this rubric: claim, sources, evidence quality, counter-evidence, stakes, and what would change your mind. Value: methods over heat, hold hypotheses lightly, stay curious, evidence-led, humane. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, share, and send leads.
You've been listening to Codename Unknown: Mysteries, Conspiracies, and Legends. The search for answers never stops, and the truth is always waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed the journey, subscribe to us, and don't miss what's next. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything.